Brian, thanks for joining WADA Talks.
You're welcome.
Cycling's come a long way from what was called a troubled era before. Take us through the changes you've made.
Yeah, well, obviously we came through, as you say, a very troubled era. We had a lot of problems. The integrity of our sport was under question. The reputation was in the gutter. And one of the reasons for that, of course, was the problems around doping issues. And clearly one of the key elements of that was the ongoing feud between WADA and the UCI. So one of the things that I did, the very first things that I did was to pick up the telephone and speak to John Fahey, the president of WADA at the time, and say, look, we have to end this, we have to work together.
And looking at those specific changes that you've met, what do you think have been the real sort of key areas that have shifted the needle, as it were?
Well, we've done a lot of things. If I can try to enumerate them, we set up an independent review, which some people refer to as a Truth and Reconciliation Commission. I don't really like that turn of phrase. So the Cycling Independent Reform Commission met and discussed and investigated over a period of almost 2 years. It produced a fantastic report. It analysed in detail the history of doping in our sport. It looked at some of the allegations that have been most damaging in the previous 15, 20 years or so. And most importantly, it made some very helpful recommendations to what we should do for our sport in the future to stop those problems repeating themselves. So that was one very important thing. At the same time, we asked the Institute of National Anti-Doping Agencies to do an audit on what we were doing. We again took account of their recommendations and changed a number of procedures and processes. We continued the establishment and development of the Cycling Anti-Doping Foundation so that all cycling's anti-doping activities are now fully 100% independent of the UCI, so there's no possibility of a conflict of interest between the management of and the governance of the UCI and the delivery of the anti-doping function. The two don't overlap at all, and I think that's been an absolutely integral part of our success in rebuilding that reputation. At the same time, we've established case management by an independent legal anti-doping service supervised by an external counsel, not by the management of the UCI. We've established an anti-doping tribunal to deal with first instance cases, take them away from national federations and national Olympic committees so that they don't have a conflict of interest. And we've toughened up our rules very substantially, including bringing in things such as team suspensions and sanctions for repeat offences within a particular team.
And can the top events in cycling today, do you think they can certainly be won clean?
Well, I believe so, and I'm not naive about it. I think that professional sports people and teams will always push any rule to the very limit, and we have to keep watching, we have to keep controlling, we have to keep making sure that our processes, our procedures, our science, in working with the right people in WADA and so on, that all of those are best possible practice at the time, and make sure that we keep making it clear to the cheats that we are potentially always lowering the radar, making it more difficult to cheat, and I think we're doing that with some success now.
Another issue we hear about today facing cycling is mechanical doping. Tell us how much of a problem this is.
Well, first of all, we don't like that phrase, mechanical doping. It's not doping, it's cheating by another means. Technological fraud is the phrase that we prefer, and that's what we built into our regulations. Previously, there were no regulations about this form of cheating, mechanical assistance or any other form of cheating in this way. So we have put in very severe and strict sanctions, potentially, for that form of cheating. We've developed, after a long period of research, we've developed a methodology for testing for that sort of cheating. We have got a system that is based on an iPad, but it has some additional gadgetry and some additional software. It can be very easily deployed. We've developed that in association with technical experts from the Institute here in Lausanne and also from universities in the UK and elsewhere. And we believe that we have a very good system. We've deployed it throughout last year. The very first time we deployed it, we caught somebody trying to cheat in that way, much to our surprise. And since then, we've had all negative tests from over 20,000 tests that we've done in the first year, including over 3,000 at the Tour de France. We've also looked at other methods. We're not just reliant on one, but what we are clear about is that what we've got is a very effective, very easily deployable method which can be rolled out to our national federations as well as used by our international officials, and we're already seeing that working out very, very effectively. So again, I think if people are trying to cheat by technological fraud, by concealed motors or some other method that is at the very forefront of science, we believe that we have a system that can detect that form of cheating at a very early stage. It will point out any bike that appears to have something suspicious about it, and then we can disassemble the bike and look inside and see what can be discovered. So I believe now it's very, very difficult for anybody to consider cheating in that way in our sport.
And you've announced that you would like to stand for a second term as president of the UCI. What would be the main changes for that second stint?
Well, I think there's a few things that we've started with my administration. We need to put them into process. We need to complete the revisions of the top level of our sport on the road. The men's road World Tour, for instance, still needs some completion, some adjustments in terms of the calendar, in terms of the regulations and the regulatory framework of that. I think I want to do more with developing women's cycling. We've done a great deal there in establishing a women's World Tour. More races, more opportunities for competition, but there's still a huge inequity between the rewards for women in cycling as compared with men. That's not just true of cycling, of course, it's true of many sports, but this is something that we are putting our attention to and something we've got to do more of. And I think the other thing that I want to do more of is trying to globalise cycling a little more effectively. The heartland of cycling probably will always be Europe, the great events, the great monuments, the Paris-Roubaix, the Tour of Flanders, the Tour de France, of course, the great events. Those are all events that will always be our flagship events, I'm sure. But we need to make sure that if we are going to be a world sport, we need to make sure that our events do take place right around the globe.
And looking many years ahead, when you've hung up your hat, what would you like your legacy to be known for?
Well, I'd like it to be known that we restored the integrity of cycling after a very, very challenging period where our reputation as a sport was absolutely in the gutter. I'd like it to be part of my legacy that women have become more equal in terms of their objectives, their aspirations in our sport. And I'd like cycling to be, as I say, that worldwide sport genuinely with the top level events taking place all around the world, and many riders, many potential athletes with huge ability from developing countries being able to take part in cycling at the highest possible level.
Brian Cookson, thank you very much.
You're welcome.